Some of these kids have awesome ideas for different poses and stuff they can do. Like the guy asked me, he said, "Hey, I want to shoot a ball from the top of the 3-point line. Like I want the ball going through the net as I'm turned away." So he's actually turned away knowing he made the shot. So I'm like, okay, let's figure this out. They give you something, you got to think through lighting setups like on the fly and figure out how you want to light this.
Welcome to the Viewfinders Photography Podcast. I'm your host, Graham Dargy. I'm a professional photographer based in Aberdeen, Scotland. This is the show where we discuss the art, craft and profession of photography with inspiring photographers from around the world. My guest today is Jaison Sterling, who specialises in dynamic, off-camera flash portraits of high school sports teams. You've probably seen some of his viral behind-the-scenes videos on Instagram and TikTok. Follow Jaison at Rocktown Media to see those. Jaison also shoots weddings and portraits with his wife Callie, and he teaches workshops around the USA. Our conversation touches on Jaison's journey to photography, how he creates collaborative experiences with his clients, some of the technicalities and logistics around his shoots, and much, much more. It's a fascinating conversation with a creative, smart and innovative photographer who I think we're going to see a lot more from in the future. Hope you enjoy this. Here's my conversation with Jaison Sterling. Jaison Sterling, welcome to the Viewfinders Photography Podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Really excited to have this time with you. I found you on Instagram a few months ago through your reels, which just popped up in my feed. And I spend, like most people, probably spend too much time watching reels on Instagram, but they're really cool, really creative. The reel is creative, but the work that you do is super creative as well. And I just thought they were, oh, you're welcome. I thought they were insanely cool and fun. And I just thought I need to talk to this guy. So here we are. I loved what you're doing. So thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
I think what you do is it called seniors portraits?
I do take photographs of seniors, but I do a lot of team and volume work as well.
Okay. I was gonna, for the audience, because in the UK, like seniors portraits is not a thing. So I was wanting to ask you to just define that just for the audience so that they can be in on what we're talking about. So tell us what that really means.
So for senior portraits, typically it's high school seniors. They just have a portrait session just to themselves, I guess, to remember like their senior year, something for their parents to have, just so they can have some cool pictures to look back on. And I specialize in sports and off-camera lighting. And so I incorporate all my like off-camera lighting and doing just some cool like sports and action shots for them. And now I also have like team and volume photography, and typically that's photographing 12 to 20 players on most of my teams. Sometimes I have like cheer gyms, like cheerleading gyms, and they have 60 plus, sometimes over 100 different athletes in those. But typically my team stuff is like 12 to 20 kids.
So what's the culture around that kind of seniors thing? Is it like normal, like everyone who has a kid who's getting to the end of high school, it's just like a normal thing that everybody does?
Yes, I would say just about every senior has some sort of like senior photography session. It doesn't have to be sports related. They can just do traditional like natural light kind of portraits, whatever. But yes, I would say around here, senior portraits is a huge, huge thing.
Okay. And so the way that you do it, is it quite unusual to have it so sort of dynamic and lit the way that you do it?
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to provide something that was just completely different than what anybody around here was offering. And I try to incorporate my love for off-camera lighting and making something that is just completely different that looks really awesome. And so I incorporate a lot of off-camera lighting and just action, and then I try to manipulate the background and try to make the image look almost surreal. I guess you could say, but I just wanted something that is different and that the kids really enjoy doing as well, because I like to make it like an experience and not just like come get your photo taken. I want them to enjoy the experience of having their photo taken as much as they like the end product, like the end images as well.
And I mentioned your reels as well. So just for people who are listening, obviously it might be in the car or walking the dog or whatever, might not be able to see that. Could you just describe what typical of your behind the scenes videos looks like?
Yeah, so I typically just have my phone with me and I set it on a stand. I try to get just my lights. I try to get like me photographing my athlete or the senior and just kind of like what the background looks like, what you would normally get if you take a picture or video with your phone, kind of what that looks like. And then I sync it up to where whenever you see the flash fire, like in the photo, I sync it up to the actual image that's from
Mm.
that shot with the flash firing. And so you get like what you would normally see with the phone and then the final image that's actually taken with camera and off camera lighting. Like these are like less than 10 seconds long.
Cool. But they've been super popular or successful, right? Has that surprised you?
Yes, absolutely. I had this idea like 2 years ago when I made my TikTok. I originally started doing this for TikTok, and I
Okay.
just had an idea like, what if I show behind the scenes, like real quick, like I said previously, like what it looks like on a phone, and then like what an actual picture looks like taken with a camera and off camera lighting. And my third TikTok that I posted, it got over 300,000 views, and I was just hooked after that.
Cool. Okay. Wow. I'm always like telling myself, like, behind the scenes, it's part of work, making those
Yes.
Instagram clips or behind the scenes clips for my blog or whatever. But I never remembered to do them, almost never remember to do
Yeah.
them. I've got the tripod with me and the little bracket and everything that I need.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I get going and setting things up, it's like the last thing on my mind. So well done for, for having a better memory
Yes.
than me.
Yeah, it was tough getting that going at first. Just remembering to do that, but now it's just habit. I have my phone there and just hit record for just several different shots at each session.
Okay, cool. Okay. That's a frame of reference for people listening then. I like to go back to the beginning. You're in, am I right to say you're in Little Rock, Arkansas?
Yes, that's correct.
Cool. Did you grow up there? Are you like a little rocker or whatever? What do you call people who come from there?
Yeah, just Arkansans, I guess. But yeah, I'm born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas.
And do you remember when you became interested in photography? Was it like a camera or a
Hmm.
photo you saw or a relative was into it?
I I was like 13 or 14 years old, and then one of my classes in high school, one of the options to do for a project was you could do a video, like a short video, like for your project. And I didn't have a camera or anything, but my grandma had a camcorder, still had like the tapes and stuff in it, and
Mm-hmm.
she let me borrow her camera, and like I was hooked on it after that, and I got hooked on it so much that she actually ended up giving me that camera, and I did video stuff all the time just for fun. I begged my parents to let me get an Apple computer just so I could edit movies and stuff on it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and when it came to my like senior year in high school, I begged my parents to let me transfer schools to go to a school that had a TV and media program, and so they let me transfer to a different school that's just like across town. It wasn't too far away, and since I did that, I ended up going and getting a degree in digital filmmaking
Oh,
at
cool.
University of Central Arkansas, and I got started actually taking photos because of my wife. Met her in while we were in college, and she was on the yearbook staff at the university we went to, and she got me like kind of into taking pictures
Okay.
back on yearbook staff, and we started our like business in 2010 while we were still in college.
Okay, cool. So, was your intent to go on to be like a filmmaker or something, or what were you thinking at the time?
At the time, yes, I originally wanted to be a narrative filmmaker and do
Mm-hmm.
something along those lines, but our business just kind of took off here while we were in college, like taking photographs, and so we just went with it.
And so, when you started out, then what did you start out photographing?
We started doing just normal like family sessions, do some weddings. We've been doing weddings since 2010. And then I started doing freelance work for a local paper here, and I got to cover high school sports. And of course, high school
Okay.
sports around here are huge, especially football. And it's not the it's the American football. uh,
Yeah.
so we I got to cover sports that way. And then I met a lot of contacts, players, coaches, faculty members from different schools by working at the paper. And then I had one coach ask me, "Hey, I know you're a photographer. Do you mind taking some pictures of my team coming up? We got all new uniforms and stuff." And he knew I did video as well, so I did a promo video for him and did pictures. And that was in 2013, and that's kind of how it got started. And then like we did the same thing next year. The next year, I really kind of planned out what I wanted my pictures to look like. I did some research on how I wanted to get the pictures to look. I wanted a dark background. I wanted some kind of like smoky stuff in the back, and I tried to research and play with it to figure out how I wanted it to look. And that's kind of how I got my look for a lot of my images with a dark background. Like I use a fog machine for a lot of them. But that first session, I used baby powder in the background.
Okay.
And
Oh, cool.
it looks cool, but it makes a mess.
So right at the beginning, you had a strong sense about the style and the look of those pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering who your influences were, or if you had any influences around your lighting or your style.
I don't know if I had like any early influences. I just kind of had a thought on how I wanted my pictures like to look like. And of course, just like every other kid who grew up here, they always saw all the Nike and Adidas ads with all the cool pictures of athletes then. So of course I saw several of those. I'm like, I want to do something kind of similar to this. And I kind of went from there and kind of developed my own style. A lot of things that I like to do with my sports pictures, I like to look at in-game photos from like famous athletes and stuff, and then sometimes I'll try to like replicate like the in-game kind of action stuff, and then do it in a photo shoot setting.
Was that instantly being into seniors, or was it more like for the sports team?
We've always done seniors and kind of incorporated it with our first like business. It's called Sterling Imageworks Photography, and the more and more I did the sports, the more I kind of like incorporated that with seniors as well. So
Okay.
that wasn't an original thing with the seniors. Our seniors typically like they used to be just like all natural light portraits.
I think what I'm getting at is, I guess when people think of seniors portraits, high school seniors, there might be a particular thing that comes to mind, and I guess what you're doing is not doesn't look like that for your sports photographs anyway. So I was wondering if there was any resistance towards that, if people just didn't get it, or did you find people just loved it straight away, or any internal resistance about, I don't know, are people going to like this? How was that part of the journey?
I think I know, of course, parents typically like the just your general traditional style senior portraits. And at first, I would say the kids were way more interested in it than like your parents were. And ultimately, it's the parents who are purchasing the photos as well.
Yeah.
But I would say over time, like everybody seemed to be getting more and more interested in that kind of style.
Okay. I'm always interested when people do something that's a little different, if they had to break through something themselves to give themselves permission to do it that way, or those kind of resistances that we can have to our own ideas. But yeah, I can imagine the kids loving being in that style and seeing themselves in that style. So yeah, why not? Okay, let's look at the sort of business side a little bit, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I want to look at how you work, and if we zoom out, and we'll talk about how you shoot in a few minutes, but
Okay.
I wanted to get an overview of the sort of client's journey from inquiry to sort of end when they've got their pictures. Is it the school that brings you in, or like how does it start?
For the most part, like for my team images and volume work, it's typically like a parent or sometimes a coach that will contact me and reach out and ask about pricing and how all of that works. The schools I would say maybe it's only a 10% of my bookings actually come directly from the schools. Most of the time, it's from a parent, a player, sometimes a coach, but the coach is like not it's not reaching out to me on behalf of the school. It's just like wants to photograph their team. Say the coach is coach for softball or something like that. They'll reach out just for that specific sport, and then I
Okay.
give them all the information, like how much the cost breakdown and everything is.
And then, so once you get the go ahead to go into the school, presumably you have to just make the date, and you come up with. Do they give you sort of how many kids are going to be there, and how
Mm-hmm.
does it work sort of logistically on that side?
Yeah, so I for my team stuff, I offer a discounted rate per kid, and each kid gets like three poses and like a minimum of three digital images with my package. So it's not like a huge senior session or anything, but I do require a minimum of 12 kids or a minimum price to actually do the photo shoot. But most of the time, I have at least probably 15 kids who want to
Okay.
do the photo shoot. So having the minimum is usually never an issue.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because you obviously going in to set all that up for one or two people, it's that doesn't really make sense. So,
Yes.
um, okay, and so the deliverables are digital images. Is that right? Then nowadays.
Yes. So in my early days of doing team and volume work, I would do the photo shoot beforehand and then hope and pray people would buy either digitals or prints after the fact. And then I quickly realized everything was changing. I guess it was back in 2007, 16, 17. Nobody wanted to buy prints, and everybody, all they were interested in was digital. So I kind of
Hmm.
changed my whole business plan then. I'm like, we're going to get paid ahead of time. We're going to have a set price. And then when I'm done editing and I upload and deliver the photos, that's it. I don't have to worry about it. I get paid for my time and the photos, and then everybody's happy. They get high resolution digital images with a personal print release to make prints if they want to, and they can post them on social media as well.
Was that a difficult transition for you in any way? Because I know around the time there was a resistance from photographers to give away the files. There
Mm-hmm.
was that time, and there was. I remember it being. I was doing some family stuff around the time, and it was quite difficult to explain to people why you wouldn't want to give them the files, and then I would then try to go the other way with the next customer and try and give them the files, but then they wanted prints. But did you have a similar experience, or did people just get it? They wanted the files, and that was it.
I would say most of our clientele here were just interested in the files. Now that's completely different for our wedding side of our business, where we like offer albums and prints, and like you of course want something tangible from something like that. But for the sports and seniors, I really didn't have any interest, like in my location, for prints, albums. Just I just wanted the digital files, and so that I just listened to our client base and just went all digitals.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. So it sounds like a quite a smooth journey. Then you must have you've been at it for a while, obviously, but you've found ways to make that process as simple as possible for clients.
Yes, absolutely. We like, for the digital files, we for teams and volume stuff. I just edit the pictures. I upload them all to one gallery. It's just like one team per gallery, and they can just download their pictures directly from there.
Okay, that's such a dream for you as well, isn't it? Um,
Yes, the simpler the better.
let's go into the fun bit, the actual
Okay.
shooting. So, I don't know if made this clear before, but again, for people listening, let's describe a typical a photograph of yours. Yeah, I'll let you do it. I'll leave it to you. So, just say a typical sports photograph of yours. How does it look, and what does it sort of involve?
Okay, so most of my sports photographs that I do, I have between a 3 and 4 light setup for most of my images. Sometimes I use 5 different lights. Almost all of my shoots require a 30 to 40 minute setup. Um, I'll I'll start with the like still poses, the ones that you look at the camera first, or just something that's in the same general area where they're not moving around a whole lot, where I don't have to move my lights any and do like a completely different setup. So I'll do all those poses first, and then we'll start moving around and doing like action shots. So later today, I have to go to I have a soccer photo shoot. And so we'll do all the still kind of photo shoot or still photos first, maybe like juggling a ball or something, staying in the same spot, of course, like holding the ball or something, looking at the camera, all the basic stuff. And then we'll go to if like a keeper wants to do one diving for a ball, we'll have a completely different setup. I'll have to move all my lights over to
Okay.
the goal and set something up there. If we want to do like a kicking shot, I'll have to do some different setups there. So I typically save all those action shots and group the kids together who want to do similar poses, and I'll group them together. That way I don't have to keep moving lights back and forth like the whole shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So I do the way I do mine. It's not a typical kind of volume shoot because I do all the effects. I'll use like the smoke and all that stuff, and I'll take my time with each kid just to make sure they get the shot that they want. So for I think tonight they said they'll have like 15 kids or something. That's probably going to take me 2 hours, 2.5 hours, just depending on what all everybody wants to do. And I'm happy to get the images that they want to have.
Yeah, that's not bad, really, if you can do 15 people in that time with moving things around. I mean, that's pretty fast. I was wondering, it'll be different, obviously, depending on the sport, but I was wondering about where your ideas come from, because I don't know how much you have a set bunch of ideas or how much is collaborating, because it could be quite an exciting environment. I guess people have ideas. So how does that part go?
So I do have my set ideas like for sports, and I mean I've been doing this for a while, so I have a ton of ideas and poses for each sport, but it never fails. These kids now, they all have some like crazy ideas and they want to do them. Like, if you want to do it, we'll make it happen. But more times than not, when I go to a photo shoot, they'll have images already saved on their phone and say, "Hey, I want to do something similar to this." I'm like, "All right, cool, let's do it."
Yeah, cool. That makes it easy for you. I guess you can just.
Yes, it makes it really easy. And like if you listen to like the kids from your photo shoot, some of these kids have awesome ideas for different poses and stuff they can do, like, or group shots with one or two other athletes.
Mm-hmm. So what was, can you think of something recently that was an idea that a kid had that was like, well, that's totally cool, it worked out?
Yes, shoot, I actually did this year for basketball. The guy asked me, he said, "Hey, I want to shoot a ball from the top of the 3-point line, but I want to shoot it and turn away and have my arms held up like I just made the shot, like I want the ball going through the net as I'm turned away." So he's actually turned away knowing he made the shot. So I'm like, okay, let's figure this out. So I kind of thought through it in my head. That's another thing. Like, if they give you something, you got to think through lighting setups like on the fly and figure out how you want to light this.
Yeah.
So I knew like you have to light him like way behind like the 3-point line, and then the basketball goal is like closer to you. So I wanted to use like a longer focal length for that to get a little bit of compression so he doesn't look super tiny in the background. So I lit him from the sides just so he can see his arms coming up, and it lit the fog and stuff kind of behind him. And then I had to put another light on the goal. But instead of him actually shooting the ball, I had someone else closer to the goal actually shoot the ball. And so I had him shoot it. The guy who's in the photo was turned away. And so when the ball went through the net, I snapped it. It took like 2 tries to get it. But now, anytime I have a basketball shoot, everybody wants to do that shot.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I was going to ask like how many angles and whatnot you do. You're shooting 3 looks for each person. How does that usually break down? Do they want to have 3 different dynamic shots, or is that not really possible?
So on my the package for the digital files stuff, the thing that everybody gets, they get 3 poses. So they get 2 still poses, which is going to be 2 still poses in the same kind of position with the same lighting setup, and then they can have 1 action shot, which is completely different lighting setup.
Okay.
So 2 different setups for each kid.
Okay, I get you. Sorry. And then there's other shots which I thought were so. There was one I saw on your website, I think, where it was the volleyball team, and you had the net, the volleyball net coming down into the foreground of the picture. Mm-hmm. I just thought that was a really cool way of adding depth and just making the picture a lot more chunky that, again, I just probably would never have thought of.
Oh, so that was another idea from one of the kids that I was photographing from a team like 2 years ago. They said, we want to take a picture with the net. I'm like, okay, let's figure out how we can make this look cool. They said they wanted to like hold it around them. And so I kind of took that idea and went with it. And I'm like, all right, well, what if I did kind of a wide angle from the floor and used some like leading lines, kind of like having the net kind of lead up to them and then kind of drape over their shoulder going back the other way. And then I had a couple that had it draped on them just like a cape, but then I had the ends of the net coming almost into the camera. So I'm just trying to add some kind of like lines in the shot to kind of make it not all over the place, kind of look somewhat symmetrical. And then of course
Mm-hmm.
I added in my like 3 or 4 light setup with those as well.
So 3 or 4 lights can sound like a lot depending where your experience is with lights, but I can see how, well, I know how you can just, things, your setup can just grow, you know? Is that a problem that you've had to try and stay sort of manageable with the amount of gear that you bring and the setup that you do?
Yeah, so most of my shoots are on location, so I want to make sure that everything is portable and I can make it back and forth like from my car to where I'm shooting in no more than 2 trips.
Okay.
Right now, I kind of have it down to where I can just make it in one trip because I have all my lights in a Pelican case with all my batteries and gels in there. Then I have a case with all my stands in it, and it has that case also can fit my umbrellas in it as well. It's like a think tank stand manager or some case. I actually just got it. It's awesome. It fits like 2 C stands, 4 like smaller stands, the base, and then like 3 umbrellas in it. It's fantastic.
Cool.
Um, and then I have my fog machine extension cords, and I have a couple like long throw reflectors that I'll bring as well. And so I have a cart that I can just wheel around. And so I just have my backpack with my actual camera and lenses, the wheelie case, the Pelican wheelie case with my lights in it, and then the stand case. And I throw the stand case in the wagon with like fog machine and extension cords and reflectors.
Okay. So is that like a folding cart kind of wagon thing?
Yes. Yes, it's a
Yeah,
folding
cool.
cart.
I just got one of those. I had a job in Edinburgh. I'm from Aberdeen, so it's a couple of hours away. And the office that I was going to was in the city centre, but they didn't have a car park nearby. My car's full, you know, when I go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, so I just messaged them like, can I just pull in at the front of the office? And like, no, you can't do that. So the nearest car park wasn't far away, but it was far enough. So I figured I had to, how am I going to get around that? So I got this cart. It's like the best thing in my kit. It's like my favorite piece of kit that I have. It's just such a lifesaver, especially as I'm getting a bit older. So
Now that cart is definitely a lifesaver. I use it for everything, and it's especially when you go to the ballparks and baseball fields. Sometimes the field that you're given for those shoots is 500 or 600 yards away, or even more, maybe 1,000 yards away from your car. And so it's a lifesaver not having to go back and forth to your car and carry a bunch of heavy equipment.
yeah. So just to stay on the lighting and stuff, it's really good fun to play with lighting. I enjoy it. So you'll have main light, you'll have backlights. You've got other different lights that you can incorporate into the shot if you want to, and you've got a fog machine on the go. One of the problems I have is like continually adjusting things.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's my own worst enemy in this sometimes, because I'll set things up and it's pretty good, but I just always want to go back and forth to the light stand and just make little changes.
Yes.
You're doing different setups as well. Is that something that you have an issue with, or are you quite like, with the experience you have, maybe you're just like boom, 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 and you can get it done?
That's kind of what I do. I set my backlights up. I typically have 2 backlights when I do my shoots, and I have my backlights set up so I don't really have to make any adjustments with them because I use 14-inch by 60-inch strip boxes, so they're pretty big. Now I do make adjustments on my key light in front on my C stand all the time. If like from person to person, you're going to have a lot of height variations, and then if some person wants to turn one way or another, in that same setup, I'll move my light over depending on which way they kind of want to turn and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And so when I say I have a 4 light setup, I have two backlights, I have a key light, and then a fill light.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my basic 4 light setup.
Okay, I was wondering like how you
Okay.
stop these sessions from sprawling. Do you know, like people will always have another idea, and it's good fun to do this kind of work.
Yes.
Not like corporate headshots where people don't want to be, they don't want to be there. But
Yes,
I
for
guess
sure.
with this kind of stuff, kids are into it, right? And even for yourself, like you're enjoying it, right? So,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love doing this kind of work. It can be tough trying to limit their poses because they always want to do more than like the three poses. If I have time, I don't mind doing a couple extra poses, but generally I have 15 to 20 kids and we're all trying to get everything done in a somewhat timely manner. And so I have to limit them just on their three poses. Now, one thing I have started doing the past couple of years is they know exactly what one pose they want to do is like, all right, come there, do your one pose. Go think about what you want to do for your other couple poses, and then we'll let somebody else come up and take their picture. So that kind of helps speed things along too.
mm-hmm.
So if they know what they want to do for like one shot or two shots, then they can go like look at their phone or ask their friends, kind of what should I do for my next shot.
Mm-hmm. You've been so thorough and helpful in your answers, so you've answered most of my questions. But I was wondering about keeping it creative because I just see your work and the way you shoot and the way you do the videos. It just seems like endless ideas. But I was thinking it's easy to have a groove, right? You can be in your groove
Mm-hmm.
and you have your go-to things that work, but then that can become a rut, after time.
For sure.
And so are you always like, I would be lying in bed thinking of ideas. Are you like that? Or do you just
Oh, for
are you
sure.
quite inspirational in the moment?
I can be. I like to plan stuff out ahead of time and not like have spur of the moment ideas and try to figure it out on the spot. Unless somebody asks me for a specific shot, then I need to figure it out on the spot. So I do like to plan out my shots and kind of figure out what I want to do. I have several shoots throughout the year that are promotional based for either like a couple teams that have hired me just to do promotional stuff with their social media, or I have a DJ that I take pictures of every year, and we always brainstorm on the phone and FaceTime, try to come up with some cool ideas like this. This last year for his promotional shoot, we actually did some practical effects using fire. We just lit the thing on fire, put it on his DJ board, and it like lit on fire for half a second, and it went out. And
Cool.
that video went crazy on Instagram.
Usually we do the gear round later on, but I think it's appropriate to do it now. So let me ask you
Okay.
about the camera and lens that you use, and then we'll talk about your lighting gear after that too.
All right. So my camera that I use a Nikon Z9, and my favorite lens to use for that is the 24 to 120 f4. I stick between that and my 70 to 200.
Okay, and I can imagine with the 24 to 120, you can just do most things that you're doing with that, right?
Probably 90% of the photos that I take can be done with the 24 to 120.
Brilliant. And then I would never ask this because I always say I'm not interested in talking with people about aperture settings, but are you shooting sort of f8 kind of thing, or where are you at?
Yes, F8 to F11 is where I stay for most of my sports photos.
Okay. I'm such a nerd, I could tell. So, yeah, well, I was just I'm going to drop a name because I can. I was talking to Joe McNally, and he's using the Z9, I would say Z9. So that's a bit of a beast by the looks of it. How are you getting on with that camera?
It is absolutely phenomenal. I
Yeah.
love it because I shoot live action sports as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have some state championship basketball games to shoot later in the week, and this thing is crazy. You can turn it up to shoot 120 frames a second if you put it in DX crop mode, or you can shoot 20 frames a second at full resolution raw files, which is 45 megapixels, and it's just absolutely crazy. I typically for live action, I keep it at 10 to 12 frames a second. You can dial it down and go to 3 frames a second or 1 frame, however you want it, and go all the way up to 20.
Yeah, I guess at some point you get too many photographs, right? So
Absolutely, yeah. 10 to 12 is my sweet spot for the live action. But when I do my sports portrait work, I put it on like 2 frames a second because I only get like one shot per flash firing because I shoot at a semi high power with my off camera lighting, and so it takes a second for the strobes to cycle.
okay, the two things that we've spoken about, the sports photography that we've mainly been talking about, the live action sports, a completely different way of doing photography, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so does the autofocus and ISO performance of that camera must be really helpful for those situations.
Absolutely. So I'm going to say the autofocus and eye detection autofocus on this camera is a game changer. That is one of the reasons why I actually went with this camera. I've always been a Nikon shooter, but I wanted to get something with a really, really good autofocus. And so, like I was saying before, I get one shot attempt when I'm taking my portraits.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when you have an action shot of somebody, say, diving towards you or doing something that's semi fast paced, you want to nail that autofocus, or you want to nail your focus, and you don't have to keep redoing the shot. This thing can track somebody's eye like coming directly towards you, and you take the picture. Everything is just spot on in focus.
Right.
That's one thing I don't really have to worry about. Is getting a shot in focus. Also, shooting at f8 to f11 helps as well.
Yeah, for sure. Let, let me ask you, what camera did you use before the Z9?
I had a Z6 II, so I got that right as it was released a few years ago, and then before that, I had a Nikon D810.
Okay. I never normally ask so many questions about cameras,
You're
but
good.
I'm probably about to get a Z7 II or a Z8 if it comes
Mm-hmm.
out soon. But it's the thing that's bugging me. The only thing that's bugging me about the D810 is the eye detection. I because I know that you can get better eye detection now, and that's that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like upgrading cameras for the sake of it. So. Okay. Do you have a brand of lighting that you prefer?
Yes, I do. I'm actually a top pro for Westcott lighting, so I use all of their lighting. It's the Westcott FJ400s.
Okay.
They're all 400 watt lights. They're high speed sync compatible, and they're all battery powered. So when you're on location, there's no running extension cords. The only extension cord that I use that I mentioned previously is for the fog machine.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of hard finding a self-contained battery pack that'll power a 1300 watt fog machine.
And so you have to work those lights pretty hard, I would imagine. So do they have like a built-in battery, or is it like you change it out kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they have a battery that can be taken out, so you can change them during your shoot.
Okay.
If I'm not using high speed sync, so if I'm shooting in the evening or if I'm shooting with just like an ND filter, um, I can get through almost a 2.5, 3 hour shooting at three-quarter power on my lights and not have to change a battery. Now, if you're using high speed sync, of course, that's going to drain your battery a lot faster.
But you only use that when you need to, presumably.
Yes. So if I'm having, you can capture most action, say like a soccer player juggling a ball, or even just kind of a basketball player dribbling a ball, moving left to right. You're going to capture most action, just not using high speed sync and just using your regular like 1/200th of a second flash sync speed, because flash does freeze most motion. Now, if I have someone dive for a ball or running past me, I'm going to use high speed sync just to avoid any motion blur.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you. I saw that you've got some tutorials and workshops coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that side of things? Do you see that growing for you?
Yes, the demand and the interest in the in-person workshops is just phenomenal. Uh, Brad Deal, the guy I work with for the workshops, we released a one on Saturday. It sold out in an hour,
Oh,
and
cool.
so we offer 20 spots per workshop, and so we have 10 people will come with me for like we do indoor and outdoor sports, and so we'll both be doing. I think for this workshop we're going to be doing football, soccer, and baseball. So in the morning we're going to be doing football, but in an indoor facility, and 10 people will come with me and do my like 2 setups we have. 10 people will go with Brad and do his setups, and then after an hour and a half we'll switch, and so they can get pictures with each of us in each different setups. And then in the afternoon we'll have a completely different setup outside for baseball and softball, and we'll do the same thing in the afternoon.
Okay.
Now, my online lighting course that I offer it's a mini course. It's about a little over 20 minutes in length, and it just breaks down my lighting setup, my like what lights I use, what modifiers I use, what settings that I have my lights at, where I position them, and where you need to set up, like if you're in an indoor facility or if you're outside on a field, how to achieve a dark background look in your photos like I get in most of my images. I've had several people ask me like, well, why don't you shoot outside in the daytime more? Well, it's people book me and they want to do that dark nighttime look with the smoke. It's really popular. So that's kind of like how my tutorial is. I'm planning on in a couple of weeks. I actually have it scheduled with my videographer that we're going to be doing some in-person photo shoots. We're going to be just filming 3 or 4 more tutorials.
Okay. I can see that if you wanted it to being a really good thing for you. Obviously there's a lot of interest in the work. You've got a great way about you. So yeah, I hope that develops for you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll put a link in the show notes for all that stuff, and presumably you have to be in the Arkansas kind of area, or how do you see that going to other places?
Oh, so the workshop, we actually had one at IMG Academy in Florida in January. And we have one in Virginia that's sold out in July, one in Arkansas it's sold out for July. And we are going to be announcing shortly, we have another one coming up in October that's going to be in Indiana.
Okay.
So all of them are in the United States, but we're doing them all over the country.
This brings us to a round called Double Exposure. I'm going to ask you about one of your pictures, which is a favorite of mine, and then I'll throw it back to you to tell me about one. You can't ask me about one. I ask the questions. So, I wanted to. There's a few that I've looked at. There's this one of this kid diving towards the base. I think I don't know anything about baseball. I'm calling it a base. It's just so cool. The dirt is kind of flying up, and his face is like strained with his 2 hands out in front of him. But I wanted to ask about the baseball bat on fire. That's a really cool shot. So, what can you tell me about a shot where a baseball bat is on fire?
So I do offer a tutorial on how to do like the practical effects for the fire. And I've done it on the baseball bat. I've done it on like a soccer ball, and I had some girl hold a softball, and we did it on the softball. It's really safe to do. It lights and it goes out in like half a second, and it's really nothing flammable in the solution and stuff that I use. It's what's like inside the bubbles that's flammable, and so that just goes out like really fast. So I saw something that came up on, I think it was YouTube or maybe Instagram, something maybe about a year ago. It was just an elementary school science experiment on how to make it. And cool. It was just like how to make flammable bubbles. And so I'm like, I can really kind of expand on this, and I could probably use it for my sports photo shoots. And so I had a kid, and I asked him if it's okay if I like tried it out, and it worked great. Worked exactly kind of how I wanted to. I messed around with doing it like in my backyard. Like I even held the stuff in my hand and did it. Like it's completely safe. Now, don't recommend doing it if it's windy because it's fire. You don't want it blowing like in your face or anything. And then I typically don't do it for larger teams. I try to keep that for like my individual sessions because I have more time to work with them. And when you only get 3 poses, it's in trying to get everything done on time for these team sessions. It's kind of hard to do the fire stuff for those.
Okay, so in the shot, the one that I'm looking at, the girl has the baseball bat sort of pointed out in front of her, and the end of the bat's on fire. It's really, really cool. So it's a matter of you get the person lit and everything's posed and composed and everything, and then you just have to make sure that you shoot on the point of the flash of the ignition of the thing, right?
It just so happens when I was testing this out, I realized that my normal settings and like flash settings and camera settings that I use are also perfect for capturing flames when they come up because they're not overexposed. They actually
Cool.
look better. There's not white or anything in the middle, and you can actually see the flame. So it actually just worked out very easily for me. So there wasn't a whole lot of trial and error going on there. I took a picture just a couple times. I'm like, all right, that was really easy.
Okay, cool. Perfect. There's one more I want to ask you about because one of my favorite photographers is Howard Schatz. I don't know if you've heard of this guy, and
Mm-hmm.
big hero of mine. And I was lucky to have him on the podcast a while ago. And so you've got these swimming shots where the water is kind of being, I don't know, it looks like it's bouncing off the athlete, I guess you would say. And it just really reminded me of Howard Schatz's picture of Manny Pacquiao. He's not
Mm-hmm.
having water thrown at him. It's like he's having sweat pop off him as he flexes like this. And it's
Yeah.
just one of my favorite pictures. It's totally awesome. But there's this one that you have of a swimmer. It's a teenage girl or young lady. And like the way I saw the behind the scenes video, the way that the water comes in from the side just moved her hair, and it just makes
Yes.
the shot so perfect. Can you talk about that picture?
Yeah, so I've done the water shots for a while. I think my first one that I did in this manner was like in 2015 when I did this originally. But the one that you're referring to was the shoot I actually had in January. It's just I have three lights for this: two backlights, two rim lights, and then a key light in front. And then I have some always willing volunteers to splash water on their fellow teammates. And so I just have the water coming from both angles. It just so happened that they kind of missed the spot that I told them to hit because I never tell them to try to aim up high. I always tell them to aim a little bit lower. But it just so happened the way that the water hit, it just hit her hair and blew her, like, moved her hair out of the way, like just the perfect time, and it looked awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That rarely ever happens. It's so hard to actually get those splashing shots and get them to look right. It takes probably 5 or 6 tries for each kid to get the timing right because you have a lot of variables going into it. You have two other athletes trying to throw the water on the person at the same time, and then you're trying to get the right timing where the water hits because you want to get it right after it hits and it splashes everywhere. You don't want to wait too long or get it too early. So that was just a fluke, I guess you could say, with the hair going like that, because that really never happens. I think that was the last attempt. I think we did 4 attempts before that to get her shot.
Mm-hmm. Like I was thinking about that, how you've just described that, and it's a lot for you to manage as the photographer. But then, in amongst that, the person ideally you want that person to be engaged and present, and
Mm-hmm.
she's doing this thing where her head is tipped slightly to the side, and
Mm-hmm.
she's just giving off this really cool attitude. Like I guess, I mean, is communicating, directing individuals, is that a big part of what you do? Are you sort of intentional about that?
Oh yes, I try to ask them like kind of what look they want to go for a picture. Then I kind of try to pose them and like move them just slightly in different ways to kind of make the picture kind of look more dramatic or kind of more toward their liking how they want the picture to look. And for the splashing shots, it's the first couple is really difficult because when the water hits them, they're always in shock because they're
Yeah,
kind of cold when the water hits them. So the first couple tries are always going to be no goes. You got to redo them.
yeah.
But after they get comfortable, then it's a lot easier to kind of get them to kind of feel like the pose and like the attitude that they want in the picture.
Cool. Let me ask you then, Jason, is there a particular picture, or maybe it's just like a shot that you do that is just like you love that's your trademark, or maybe just a great experience that you've had in your photography journey?
Here lately, I've really been enjoying doing like reflection shots. If it's like volleyball or basketball, and we're in a gym, and you may have seen it on some of the volleyball shots that I've done, but I'm a little ways away from the person, and then they're actually looking away from the camera, but their head's kind of turned to the side, like they're looking off to the side, or they're holding a ball to the side, kind of looking down. It's not a crazy pose. It's not very difficult, but the way that I light it, I feel like it's really dramatic. I typically light it from the sides, or I have a light from behind illuminating the smoke, and I try to match the smoke color with the team color. So I'll use different color gels with some off camera lighting to match the team color of my uniforms. But having that light coming in kind of from behind and their face is kind of lit from the side, I come back away from that and put my camera directly on the floor. And I'm probably a good, I don't know, 10 yards away, maybe not 10 yards, but maybe close to 20 feet away, somewhere around there, and put the camera on the floor. And then I get their full body in the top part of the shot, and I get their reflection on like the gym floor with the smoke and everything around them. You can see their reflection like perfectly on the gym floor. And it all has to do with like off camera lighting, where you place your lights, and then also your camera angle, getting that camera like it's resting on the floor to get that shot. Those have been some of my favorites lately, because I feel like it has more emotion in that picture than a lot of the other ones that I take, and it's just kind of one of my favorites.
So did you come up with that one yourself?
I did. I do several different variations of this. I've had basketball photos where they sit in a chair, kind of look to the side or kind of at an angle toward me. Kind of like I'll have like a guy or girl in a chair looking down at the basketball, like they're just like in deep thought, and then having that reflection underneath them, it just adds a different element to the picture altogether.
Is there like a best sport or like a favorite sport? Like if you know you've got to shoot for a particular type of sports team coming up, is there a type of sport that's like, yeah, there's a lot to get your teeth into, or versus any that, like, this might be less fun?
I mean, I can get a ton of different shots no matter like what the sport is. I tend to have more of my crazy ideas in basketball photo shoots than anything else, and it's football. I always come up with something crazy too. But it just it really just varies also like on the team and on the person, kind of what they want to do as well. Because if it was just a one-on-one session, we can do all the different poses and stuff that you want. But when I do teams, a lot of the times the kids will kind of just piggyback off of their teammates and say, "Oh, I want to do that same pose too." So I'm also limited to what each individual wants to do for the team stuff as well.
Okay.
Now, I will say there are certain sports that take a whole lot longer to photograph than other sports. Baseball and softball are probably the two sports that take the longest to photograph, simply because like when we do like the action shots, they always want a photograph at their position. Well, baseball, softball field is large, so I got to move all around the field to get those different shots.
Okay. I wouldn't know the difference, but anyway, it's so funny. Like baseball's huge in the States, right? It's just not a thing here at all. Isn't that funny? Okay, this has been totally cool. Let's do the quick fire round to end with. My quick fire round is called Motor Drive. So, okay, wide angle or telephoto?
Ooh, wide angle.
Color or black and white?
Color.
I know you're a color guy. You ever do some arty black and white stuff?
I do occasionally. I have a few sessions where I'm like, that would look really good in black and white, so I'll just throw some extra black and whites in there.
Yeah, cool. Expensive lens cloth or the corner of your shirt?
Corner of my shirt.
Okay, cool. What's a weird thing I could find in your camera bag or your camera kit?
A weird thing. I'm trying to think. I don't think I have anything weird in my camera bag. I have one of those rocket blowers in there to like clean off my lens and sensor. That's I have some stickers in there that I hand out. I sometimes keep like a protein bar or something in there.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
Cool. Stickers is good. I find everybody has something, like, you pick up your little habits and stuff over the years. So, name a photographer we should all know about, or your favorite photographer.
Oh. I'm going to say probably my guy Eli Infante. He's out of Texas. I actually really love his work, where he's also a Westcott Top Pro, and I really love looking at all of his portraits.
Okay, so what's the name again?
Eli Infante is his name.
Oh, okay. So what kind of work is it?
His is just mostly model portrait work. It's just the way he uses lighting and stuff is really cool.
Cool. I'll check it out and I'll put a link in the show notes. What's your go-to emoji?
Oh gosh, go to emoji. I'm gonna look at my phone real quick and see what my recent ones are. It looks like the crying, laughing one is the one I use the most.
Okay, cool. That's a good one. What's the music scene like in Arkansas? What's the best Arkansas band or musician?
Oh man, most of the bands and stuff from Arkansas are country music. I don't really listen to a whole lot of country music. You could say probably Justin Moore. He's a country artist from Arkansas.
Okay, cool. We'll check it out. You've got a sort of, to me, a cowboy kind of accent, so it would be okay if you just did some country songs. That would be fine. When do you feel at peace with the universe?
Oh, probably when my wife and my son were up at our lake house during the summer when we get to take like a couple weekends. My family's had a lake house. It's been in my family since the '70s, and it's nothing special. Just a small lake house. It's up the road from the lake, but I grew up going there, and then now I get to take my wife and my son up there, and we spend a couple weekends every summer up there.
That sounds great. Thanks so much, Jaison. This has been super fun. I like talking about lighting and stuff like that. So really enjoyed meeting you. Super grateful for your time and all the best with them.
Yes, thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for listening, guys. So appreciate your time. Follow Jaison on Instagram at rocktown.media and TikTok at rocktownmedia. Go to his website to see his fantastic photography and find out about his online tutorials and his upcoming workshops. Links to everything we spoke about are in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, check out my conversations with Monty Racketson, Craig Fraser, and Howard Schatz. You can find them on the Viewfinders website. Take care, enjoy your photography, and I'll see you out there.